Joining me now to get into the nitty-gritty on this is Nebraska Republican Congressman Mike Flood. Congressman Flood, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about housing, because so many people are interested in finding a way to afford a home or find a way to make things more affordable. Congressman, this legislation passed overwhelmingly in the Senate by 89-10 of a margin. But there is some opposition in the House from your Republican colleagues. What changes would they like to see?
Well, first of all, I wrote the bill in the House. They got 390 votes out of 435. So we have a product in the House that we have worked together on a bipartisan basis. And when you can bring together a group of 390 members of both parties, we have a product that I think actually moves the ball forward. Listen, the Senate is doing their job. They are working down a path. We do have some concerns. There's probably about 30 folks in the House Freedom Caucus that object to the prohibition on central bank digital currency ending in 2031. That is something that they have laser focus on, and they will not move off that position. Plus, there is some language inside the Senate bill that would effectively shut down the 50,000 homes that come online a year in a build-to-rent situation. So there's some hurdles, but these are not insurmountable. The good news is the House wants to pass a bill, the Senate wants to pass a bill, and the president wants to sign one. So we have a perfect storm in a year where there's all sorts of conflict. Here we have members of Congress working bipartisanly to make this happen. This is what America wants its Congress to do.
Yeah, I think you need to say that B word again, because we don't hear it often at all, right? So it's one of those things that when we find that our lawmakers can actually agree on something that the American people want, we need to find a way to get that done. Do you think it will address the housing crisis in a meaningful way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll give you one small example. This law, if passed, the Senate version or the House version, gets rid of the requirement that a manufactured home has a chassis. Listen, in 1905, you could order a two-story house from the Sears catalog. We've made it too tough with all the regulations. You remove that chassis requirement, the manufactured homes of today aren't the trailers of yesteryear, and you lower the cost for a brand new stick-built in a factory home by $25,000. That is a boots on the ground solution, and these manufactured homes, they work wonderfully in rural areas for infill, even in some urban areas. So that's just one example of where the Senate and the House have agreement. There's a lot of other issues, making these federal dollars easier to use, getting rid of some of the burdensome environmental reviews that we have in there. By the way, all of that's well intentioned, but it adds cost to the product. And the product is a home. And right now, the average age of a new homeowner in America is 40. That is unacceptable. That is putting it too far out of reach for so many people that are working their tails off in their 20s and 30s.
Congressman, I know you're still out there in the field. You talk to your constituents. I want to ask you about the economy at large. Polls show Americans are beginning to feel worse about the economy as we see higher gas prices, inflation that just doesn't seem to quit, and a stagnant job market. What is your message to voters in terms of why they should trust your party to take these issues head on?
Well, when you talk gas prices and you look at 2025, they dropped significantly. And we have adopted in the Republican Party an all of the above energy policy, which means coal, which means natural gas, which means wind, which means solar, everything comes together. That is not the position of the opposite party. They want to restrict us using some of these energy sources. As it relates to unemployment, I live in a state with some of the lowest unemployment in the nation. We have more jobs than people in a lot of communities. But I do know there are regions of America where they've seen a slight uptick in the unemployment rate. But as we reshore, as we bring those manufacturing jobs back to the United States, we will become a country that makes things again, and that provides us more security. And by the way, the situation in Iran obviously having some impact on a short-term basis with gas prices. I am pleased to see that a coalition of 6 countries are actively working to help us protect the waterways that will deliver energy to the rest of the world. So we have a lot going on and on a lot of fronts, but I'm confident when November comes, Americans will see more money in their pocket. I already know that's the case from this year's tax returns because tax returns are up over 10% year to date over last year.
And Congressman, I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't ask you about Nebraska farmers who are also feeling the pinch this year. What is your message to them?
Well, it's especially tough right now because we've got about 800,000 acres that are actively on fire in the Nebraska Panhandle and central Nebraska. So this has been a very tough month. We need to do a couple of things, and the president agrees with us. We need year-round E15. That immediately adds $2 billion of capacity to the market. So that's a big deal. We need China to make good on their promises to buy the soybeans they said they were going to buy in late November and early December. Those things come together. We're on a much better path. But year-round E15, that is one of the best solutions.
Yeah, those farmers are the backbone of our entire economy. We know that. In the midst of a week of multi-partial government shutdowns, which is impacting parts of DHS notably, TSA agents are not being paid, which has led to no-shows at long security lines at airports. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries addressed the shutdown earlier today, blaming the GOP for the TSA issues. Let's take a listen, and I want to get your reaction on the other side.
Well, the reason why Johnson is not bringing the TSA legislation to a vote is that Republicans have clearly made the decision to hold TSA agents hostage, to create an inconvenience for millions of Americans all across the country, and to jam chaos at airports down the throats of the American people. That's the only justification right now.
Congressman Flood, is that the only justification?
No, what he just said there is patently false. When the bill came up to fund DHS, he voted no. 4 of his Democratic colleagues voted with all of us to fund the DHS. Listen, this is gaslighting at its best. He knows it's bad for him, but I'll take a step back and let's just look at this. It's bad for everybody in Congress. It looks bad on all of us. If you've got somebody from my district that's waiting in line at TSA for an hour, yes, I voted for the funding for DHS, but I think it's horrible that that painful experience is being passed on by Congress that's unwilling to just do the right thing and take care of making sure the government runs. And I don't blame the TSA agents. Would you stick around at a job where payday came around and there was no paycheck? They are also being victimized here. But the reality is, every time I've been asked to vote for DHS funding, I voted for it. Every time President Biden was in power and there was a funding bill, I voted to fund the government. I am not somebody that holds out my vote to try and make a point and then punish people who have no business being inconvenienced just because I can't get along in the Congress. That's not how I operate. And quite frankly, Leader Jeffries, that is disappointing. You are the leader of the Democrats, and you know that's not true.
Nebraska Congressman Mike Flood, I want to thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and we send our prayers to the farmers in Nebraska.
We appreciate that very much.